What if I mentioned that the familiar Bible might actually be incomplete, missing key elements about creation, the lives of early patriarchs, and God's commandments? The Book of Jubilees, part of the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, purports to fill these voids, unveiling concealed narratives and offering a deeper understanding of God's overarching plan. However, this book found itself excluded from much of Christianity. Why is that? In this video, we dive into the enigmatic Book of Jubilees, also known as the Little Genesis, to discover why its 50 chapters didn't make it into the widely accepted Christian Bible. This ancient scripture provides additional details about the Genesis story, presenting a broader cosmic view involving angels, celestial timing, and undisclosed decrees bestowed upon humankind. Moreover, the Book of Jubilees challenges the globally accepted calendar, arguing that God imparted a holy structure to time that is largely ignored today. So, why did the early church dismiss this ancient document? What potentially controversial truths does it hold? The Book of Jubilees not only recounts the creation story as we know it from Genesis, but also extends well beyond, suggesting that when God fashioned the universe, He was also establishing a specific time framework according to His divine scheme. Here, the notion of sacred time is introduced. Contrary to the conventional calendar most adhere to, the Book of Jubilees proposes a meticulous solar calendar managed by celestial angels that dictates the cosmic cycles of the universe. This concept transcends mere day counting. It's about aligning our lives with God's intent. The Book of Jubilees suggests that humans were destined to follow a divinely ordained calendar composed of 364 days, neatly divided into 4 equal seasons of 91 days each. This arrangement ensures that holy days, including the Sabbath and various festivals, consistently occur on their intended dates. It's an impeccable system, yet one largely forgotten by the modern world. Unlike the Genesis account, which starts with the creation of Earth, Jubilees provides an expanded narrative. It reveals that before the Earth was formed, angels were created on the very first day. These celestial beings play a pivotal role in the universe's governance, particularly in the regulation of time and the seasons. According to Jubilees, these angels have distinct responsibilities assigned by God. Some manage the celestial mechanisms, such as the movement of heavenly bodies, while others act as messengers and guardians of divine statutes. This concept of angelic overseers aligns with other ancient writings, yet Jubilees places particular emphasis on their role in maintaining cosmic order, ensuring that celestial bodies like the sun, moon, and stars adhere to their prescribed paths, as stated in Jubilees 2:9. These angels are not merely observers, they actively manage the temporal framework. Discrepancies from this divine timing lead to disorder, a recurring motif throughout the Book of Jubilees, highlighting the consequences of deviating from God's established order. A key point of debate in the Book of Jubilees is its firm advocacy for a solar calendar over the lunar calendars used by many ancient societies, such as the Israelites. Jubilees argues that adhering to a solar calendar is essential for maintaining divine harmony, as it precisely corresponds with God's ordained structure of time. The text details that a solar year should consist of 364 days, neatly divided into 52 weeks, with each of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, encompassing exactly 13 weeks or 91 days. This configuration ensures that the Sabbath and all other holy festivals recur on their proper days every year. Remarkably, this solar calendar bears a close resemblance to the Ethiopian calendar, still in use today by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The Ethiopian year is organized into 13 months, comprising 12 months of 30 days each, and an additional month, Pagum, which includes either 5 or 6 days to balance out the year. This similarity raises the possibility that the Ethiopian calendar remains one of the few contemporary systems that mirror the sacred timing outlined in Jubilees. On the other hand, the lunar calendar, embraced by many ancient civilizations including the Israelites, is criticized in Jubilees as a distortion of this divine order. Due to its inconsistency, the lunar calendar causes months and religious festivals to gradually drift, leading to what Jubilees describes as spiritual chaos. There will be those who will surely make observations of the moon, disrupting the seasons and creating an abominable day, Jubilees 6:37. According to the Book of Jubilees, the decision to use a lunar calendar represents not just an error, but a direct defiance of God's command. The text advocates for a return to the solar calendar, suggesting that such a shift would restore alignment with the divine order established at the world's creation. Jubilees not only reiterates the 6-day creation story found in Genesis, but expands on the events of the first Sabbath. It portrays God as not merely resting on this day, but sanctifying it as a holy ordinance meant for both humans and angels. The Sabbath is fundamental in Jubilees, underpinning the structure of time from weekly cycles to the Jubilee cycles every 49 years, which are designed to restore and harmonize the world with God's intended pattern. This involves times of rest, liberation, and rejuvenation for the earth, humanity, and even the angelic hosts, highlighting the day's consecration as a perpetual holy sign across all of creation. Jubilees adds depth to the narrative of Adam's creation on the 6th day, consistent with the account in Genesis, but with significant additions. After forming Adam, God did not simply impose general obligations, but issued specific commandments that included Sabbath observance, purity laws, and guidelines for marriage and worship. These directives, communicated through angels, formed the core of a covenant between God and humanity. This element introduces a new dimension where angels serve as intermediaries, instructing Adam in the divine statutes, thus enriching the Genesis story with deeper insights into the divine legal framework governing human existence. In the Book of Jubilees, the angels of presence play a crucial role in educating Adam and Eve about divine laws concerning holiness, sacrifice, and ethical behavior. On the 6th day of the 2nd week, God commanded that all creatures be brought before Adam, categorizing them day by day. Beasts on the 1st day, cattle on the 2nd, birds on the 3rd, terrestrial creatures on the 4th, and aquatic life on the 5th, as recorded in Jubilees 3:1-2. This ordered presentation underlines the structured nature of God's creation and His laws. This interaction with angels underscores the celestial origin of these laws, indicating that they are not merely human constructs, but integral to the cosmic order. The narrative suggests that Adam was expected to adhere to these divine mandates as part of an everlasting covenant, mirroring the obedience of the angels in the heavenly domain. This raises intriguing questions. Were the laws given to Adam a precursor to those received by Moses on Mount Sinai? How do these early commandments align with or differ from the 10 Commandments? Exploring these ancient directives might reveal profound insights into the continuity and evolution of divine law from the dawn of humanity. If you are intrigued by how these laws compare to those given to Moses, or have other thoughts about the significance of these early commands, please share your views. Should we delve deeper into the ancient laws established at the creation? The Book of Jubilees presents a deeper exploration into the aftermath of Adam and Eve's fall, particularly focusing on their children, Cain and Abel. In addition to the biblical account of Cain's murder of Abel, Jubilees delves into the repercussions of this act, marking it as humanity's first grave transgression against God's law, with profound spiritual implications for all of humanity. However, despite Cain's banishment, the text emphasizes that the virtuous lineage of humanity is preserved through Seth, Adam's third son. Seth is depicted in Jubilees as a paragon of virtue, diligently following the divine laws as taught by the angels. His adherence sets a precedent for subsequent generations, including Noah, who uphold the covenant with God. While the narrative of Noah and the flood is familiar from Genesis, Jubilees expands on this by highlighting not only Noah's survival, but also the covenant established with him post-flood, which stresses the importance of maintaining purity, righteousness, and obedience to God's commandments. Jubilees also provides a more detailed account of the corruption that precipitated the flood, particularly focusing on the Nephilim, the progeny of fallen angels and human women. While Genesis briefly mentions these beings, Jubilees offers additional insight into how their presence and the dissemination of forbidden knowledge by fallen angels significantly contributed to the degeneration of moral integrity on earth. This comprehensive depiction underscores a world descending into chaos, and lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, like men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other. Jubilees 5:2. This narrative elaborates on the profound levels of moral decay, not solely attributable to human wrongdoing, but also to the sinister influence of these celestial interlopers. In response to the rampant corruption on earth, God decisively sends a flood to eradicate this widespread moral decay, sparing only Noah and his family due to their righteousness. The Book of Jubilees provides further details on the aftermath of the flood, revealing that God's covenant with Noah involved not only a promise never to flood the earth again, but also the establishment of specific laws concerning purity and sacrifice. These laws were designed to preserve the sanctity of human life and prevent the kind of degeneration that triggered the deluge. A significant aspect of this new covenant in Jubilees is the continuation of practices from earlier times. Noah was instructed to honor the Sabbath and to adhere to the same sacrificial and purity laws that had been given to Adam. This continuity underscores the narrative of a new beginning for humanity, while stressing the critical importance of obedience to God's commandments as a means to avert further divine judgment. The sacrificial laws, which were to be more fully developed in the Mosaic law, were already practiced by Noah. These included detailed instructions for conducting burnt offerings and maintaining purity, both physically and spiritually. By integrating these practices, the covenant after the flood not only served as a reset for human civilization, but also as a reinforcement of divine laws meant to guide humanity towards holiness and away from the chaos of the past. This strategic reinforcement of ancient laws through Noah's covenant highlights the perpetual relevance of divine guidance throughout human history. In the 12th chapter of Genesis, we first meet Abraham as he is summoned by God to leave his homeland for Canaan. However, the Book of Jubilees delves into earlier chapters of his life, providing a richer backstory. It describes how Abraham was raised in a household deeply entrenched in the worship of idols, with his father Terah devoutly following false gods, an aspect not covered in Genesis. Jubilees depicts a young Abraham who decisively turns away from the idol worship prevalent in his family, instead choosing to embrace the worship of the one true God. He confronts his father, asking about the nature of the idols, eventually burning them in public and escaping to the wilderness. Jubilees 11:16-17. While Genesis highlights Abraham's readiness to heed God's call, Jubilees presents him as a transformative figure who actively challenges and destroys his father's idols, taking a firm stand against the idolatry of his era. This early act of defiance is pivotal, as it prefigures Abraham's future role as the progenitor of a people who would renounce pagan customs in favor of adhering to divine statutes. Moreover, the Book of Jubilees suggests that Abraham was acquainted with divine laws well before the time of Moses, which is a notable departure from the Genesis narrative. In Genesis, the only law explicitly given to Abraham involves the covenant of circumcision, Genesis 17. Contrastingly, Jubilees portrays him as observing the Sabbath, performing sacrifices, and adhering to other commandments typically associated with Moses. These laws, according to Jubilees, originated not with Moses, but were ancient edicts handed down from angels to patriarchs, starting from Adam. Angels imparted these heavenly decrees to Abraham, expecting him to comply as part of his sacred covenant with God, Jubilees 12:25. Thus, unlike the portrayal in Genesis where Abraham's deeds reflect his personal spiritual journey, Jubilees casts him as a key figure in a grand cosmic scheme. Guided by angels, the laws he practiced were part of a celestial framework that linked the ordinances of heaven and earth, including Sabbath observance and various purity laws that Moses would later codify. This broader perspective presents Abraham not just as a faithful individual, but as an integral component of a divine plan. The covenant of circumcision stands as a pivotal event in Abraham's narrative, particularly highlighted in Genesis 17, where God commands Abraham to circumcise himself and all male members of his household as a token of their covenant. However, the Book of Jubilees offers a deeper insight into this ritual, suggesting that circumcision was not merely a symbolic act, but was instead part of a pre-existing cosmic statute inscribed on heavenly tablets. According to Jubilees, the practice of circumcision predates Abraham and was a divine ordinance established at the world's creation. This covenant is detailed as being etched onto the heavenly tablets, which are portrayed as God's blueprint for all creation. These tablets contain comprehensive laws that apply to both angels and humans, underscoring the universality and permanence of these decrees. Jubilees emphasizes the rigor of this practice with its mandate that circumcision must occur without deviation on the 8th day after birth, as stated. This law is for all generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, and no passing over one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 15:25. In contrast to Genesis, where the focus is primarily on Abraham's compliance with God's directive, Jubilees frames circumcision as aligning with a broader, more profound cosmic order. It is not just a physical manifestation, but a ritual that syncs humanity with the overarching celestial laws that dictate the order of the universe. The binding of Isaac, known as the Akedah, is one of Genesis's most profound narratives, Genesis 22:1-19, where Abraham's faith is tested by God through the directive to sacrifice his son, Isaac. However, the Book of Jubilees presents a more complex version of this story, framing it within a broader context of spiritual conflict. In Jubilees, it is the angel Mastema, often equated with Satan, who proposes this trial to God, hoping to see Abraham fail. Mastema embodies the forces of evil, which continually strive to derail the virtuous. Jubilees further enriches this narrative by depicting angelic intervention at the climax of the story. God permits this ordeal not merely as a test of faith, but as a demonstration of Abraham's superior fidelity over the lures of malevolence. The text recounts, "And I stood before him and before the prince of Mastema, and the Lord said, 'Command him not to lay his hand on the lad, nor do anything to him, for I have shown that he fears the Lord. Jubilees 18:10. This passage not only highlights Abraham's devotion, but also marks a significant moment where divine forces counteract the schemes of evil. Unlike Genesis, where the focus is squarely on Abraham's personal challenge, Jubilees embeds his trial within a larger cosmic struggle between good and evil. Mastema's intention to lead Abraham astray contrasts sharply with the divine plan, illustrating a pivotal victory where steadfast faithfulness ultimately conquers malevolent intentions. This layered narrative in Jubilees not only tests Abraham's obedience, but also underscores a grand spiritual warfare, emphasizing the broader themes of angelic involvement and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. In Genesis 25:23, God imparts a crucial revelation to Rebekah about her unborn sons, Jacob and Esau, indicating that they would each become progenitors of distinct nations, with the elder, Esau, destined to serve the younger, Jacob. This prophecy introduces the theme of sibling rivalry on a grand scale, predicting a dynamic where the older brother's lineage would be subordinate to that of the younger. The Book of Jubilees takes this narrative further, framing it not merely as a family conflict, but as an integral part of a divine scheme. It introduces the notion of predestination, stating explicitly that Jacob was chosen from his birth to uphold the covenant established with Abraham and continue the lineage of righteousness. Conversely, Esau was preordained to deviate from God's plan. Jubilees intensifies this concept by revealing that Isaac and Rebekah were divinely informed of Esau's future rebellion and the antagonistic path his descendants would take against Israel, as stated, "And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations shall be divided from your womb, and 1 nation shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger." Jubilees 19:13. This mirrors the prophecy given in Genesis, though Genesis presents it in a manner that focuses more on the immediate narrative of sibling tension and less on a predestined cosmic plan. Jubilees provides a deeper context for understanding Jacob's contentious actions, such as his acquisition of the birthright and his father's blessing. These actions, though seemingly deceitful, are portrayed in Jubilees as components of fulfilling the predetermined divine will, where Jacob's destiny to inherit the blessing was sealed before his birth. This portrayal shifts the perception of Jacob's tactics from mere cunning to a necessary step in divine providence. Furthermore, Jubilees highlights Esau not just as a brother who forfeits his birthright, but more significantly, as the progenitor of a lineage that stands in opposition to God's chosen people. His descendants are depicted as forming a nation that will rise against the Israelites, fulfilling the prophecy that the elder shall serve the younger. While Genesis also records the ensuing enmity between Esau and Jacob following their disputes over the birthright and blessing, Genesis 27:41, Jubilees expands this narrative into a depiction of a broader cosmic conflict between the forces of righteousness, embodied by Jacob, and rebellion, represented by Esau. Esau gathered his wives, sons, and all his possessions, and ascended to the mountainous region of Seir, where he settled. Over time, Esau's lineage grew into a distinct nation, one that often clashed with the descendants of Jacob, as noted in Jubilees 37:1 and referenced in Genesis 36:8. This was not merely a personal conflict, it had national implications. Esau's descendants, known as Edomites, engaged in recurring conflicts with the Israelites, mirroring the deep-seated spiritual strife that originated with their ancestors. A pivotal event in Jacob's life was when he received a significant blessing from his father, Isaac, as recorded in Genesis. This blessing was instrumental in Jacob becoming the progenitor of the 12 tribes of Israel, Genesis 27. The Book of Jubilees delves deeper, highlighting that Jacob received not only a blessing, but a continuation of the divine commandments handed down from Abraham. After this blessing, it is said that God and angels disclosed to Jacob the specific laws his lineage was to uphold, including Sabbath observance, purity edicts, and a holy calendar. These laws would later be codified into the Mosaic Law. Thus, Jacob was seen as the custodian of these divine statutes, charged with the responsibility to ensure that his heirs, the forthcoming Israelites, adhered to them as part of their sacred covenant with God. One night, the Lord revealed himself to Jacob and declared, "I am the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. The ground upon which you sleep I will bestow upon you and your descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky." Jubilees 27:23, referencing Genesis 28:1, 12-15. In this dream, where Jacob saw a ladder reaching to heaven, God not only promised the land to Jacob, but also imparted sacred laws, aligning him with the celestial order that rules both heaven and earth. The narrative highlights Jacob's role not merely as an heir to a birthright, but as a guardian of divine mandates, connecting him to the heavenly tablets referenced earlier in Jubilees. The text extends beyond the personal conflict between Jacob and Esau, portraying it as a part of a broader prophetic theme where their descendants engage in an enduring conflict. Jubilees portrays the nations stemming from Esau as perpetual adversaries to the Israelites, suggesting a larger narrative of spiritual warfare between virtue, represented by Jacob and Israel, and defiance, represented by Esau and Edom. According to Jubilees, this prophetic conflict encompasses more than just a land dispute. It symbolizes the overarching celestial battle between good and evil. The lineage of Esau becomes synonymous with nations that stand against God's chosen, a theme that persists throughout biblical stories. This enmity between Israel and the progeny of Esau is critical in Jubilees' depiction of the end times, underscoring the text's apocalyptic tone by linking these tensions to ultimate cosmic events. Jacob and his sons traveled to Egypt to join Joseph, while the sons of Esau stayed in the land of Edom, marking the beginning of a lasting hostility between the nations. Jubilees 45:3, referencing Genesis 33:16. From that moment, Esau returned to Seir. This enduring spiritual conflict is a central theme in Jubilees, highlighting how the stories of the patriarchs are woven into a greater cosmic narrative, one that encompasses not only Abraham's descendants, but also the destinies of entire nations and the ultimate showdown between good and evil. In the Book of Genesis, the narrative details the birth of Jacob's 12 sons through his wives Leah and Rachel, as well as their maidservants. These sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, eventually lead the tribes of Israel. However, Jubilees introduces an additional divine element to these births, portraying them not merely as outcomes of personal relationships, but as parts of a divine blueprint. According to Jubilees, the timing and sequence of each birth were divinely predetermined to coincide with a sacred calendar, suggesting that these events were meticulously orchestrated according to God's grand design. The narrative in Jubilees further emphasizes that the births of these 12 sons were not only planned, but also recorded on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 28:12, referencing Genesis 29:31 to 30:34. While Genesis recounts the physical circumstances surrounding these births, Jubilees underlines their spiritual significance, affirming that the formation of the 12 tribes was a crucial element of God's preordained plan for humanity. One pivotal event in Genesis is the story of Reuben, Jacob's eldest son, who forfeits his firstborn rights following a serious misdeed, Genesis 35:22. The Book of Jubilees delves deeper into this incident, highlighting its spiritual ramifications and explaining why Judah and Levi are elevated in his stead. According to Jubilees, Reuben's sin is not merely a personal error, but a breach of the divine laws that were set in place long before, marking his actions as a profound spiritual violation that strips him of his leadership over the tribes, thus paving the way for Judah, the fourth son, to rise in prominence. Moreover, while Genesis touches upon Joseph's unique qualities and his journey, Jubilees extends this narrative to include the involvement of angels in Joseph's life. It portrays angels not only as guardians, but as active participants in guiding and safeguarding Joseph through his adversities. This portrayal underscores Joseph's role as a key figure within a broader celestial schema, indicating that his life and actions are part of a larger divine plan, making him a vital instrument of God's intentions. Ultimately, the Book of Jubilees offers a more profound comprehension of the significance of Levi and Joseph, situating them within a grand cosmic order preordained by God. While Genesis provides a personal account of their lives and tribulations, Jubilees connects their deeds to the greater divine scheme for Israel. By emphasizing the heavenly tablets and the cosmic impact of human deeds, Jubilees encourages readers to perceive the interconnection between historical occurrences and their pivotal role in the spiritual fate of God's chosen people, affirming that these events are foundational to God's overarching plan from the beginning. In the Book of Jubilees, Joseph's relationship with God is deepened through divine intervention, as angels play a significant role in guiding and protecting him throughout his life's journey. From the moment Joseph is sold into slavery, angels dispatched by God vigilantly ensure his safety and adherence to his divine destiny in Egypt. These celestial guardians intervene at crucial moments, shielding him from danger and helping him maintain his faith. It is said that God sent his angels to protect Joseph on his path to Egypt, valuing his life highly and recognizing the importance of his mission, as his fate was preordained in the heavenly tablets, Jubilees 34:21. This element of angelic protection introduces a spiritual dimension to Joseph's narrative not explicitly detailed in Genesis, portraying his experiences not merely as fortuitous, but as divinely orchestrated events. This spiritual oversight confirms that Joseph's ascent to power and his role in saving his family were part of a larger celestial plan. Moreover, Jubilees extends Joseph's significance beyond his immediate family's survival during famine to a prophetic connection with the Exodus. Unlike Genesis, where Joseph's story concludes with the settlement of his family in Egypt, Jubilees portrays his life as a foreshadowing of the Israelites' future enslavement and liberation. It reveals that Joseph was cognizant of his descendants' impending bondage and played a proactive role in preparing them for their eventual freedom. He reassures his brothers of God's future intervention, affirming, "I will die, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land, to the land he promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not fear, for these events are determined and recorded on the heavenly tablets." Jubilees 46:9. The portrayal of Joseph's demise in Genesis suggests it as the conclusion of his tale, lacking a significant prophetic context. Conversely, the Book of Jubilees views his passing as a pivotal moment, marking the onset of Israel's bondage in Egypt, yet also heralding a divine promise of eventual liberation. This connection weaves Joseph's life into a broader divine scheme of salvation, culminating in the Exodus. In Genesis, the narrative of Israel's enslavement unfolds with the rise of a new Pharaoh, who, unfamiliar with Joseph, subjects the Israelites to harsh treatment. Exodus 1:8-14. On the other hand, Jubilees interprets this oppression as fulfilling a celestial prophecy already inscribed in the heavenly tablets. It depicts God as having foreseen and scripted Israel's enslavement as a step towards their dramatic rescue during the Exodus and the subsequent establishment of the Mosaic Law. Joseph's pivotal action in relocating Israel to Egypt, initially a salvation from famine, is seen in Jubilees as a prelude to their destined subjugation. This period of bondage was destined to showcase God's might in their eventual deliverance. The heavenly tablets explicitly state their suffering and God's plan for a miraculous rescue to manifest His glory. Jubilees 48.1. Thus, the sojourn of the Israelites in Egypt transcends a mere sequence of events, emerging as an integral part of a divine narrative. Their afflictions and the prophesied Exodus are depicted as divine orchestration, aiming to set the stage for the revelation of the laws at Mount Sinai, highlighting the spiritual and redemptive dimensions of their trials. In the Book of Exodus, God directly intervenes with plagues to rescue Israel from Pharaoh's tyranny, Exodus 7-12. Yet the Book of Jubilees introduces an additional spiritual dimension, depicting angels as significant participants in the showdown between God and Pharaoh. Jubilees frames Israel's oppression as a component of a broader spiritual conflict between the forces of light and darkness. It presents Master, often linked with Satan, as a force actively striving to stiffen Pharaoh's resolve and intensify Israel's misery. Master, along with his malevolent spirits, is portrayed as inciting the Egyptians to further oppress Israel, challenging their loyalty to God. Jubilees 48:9 captures this struggle, stating, "The Prince of Master stood against them, aiming to annihilate them through severe bondage and to lead them away from their faith in the Lord." This narrative infuses the account of Israel's enslavement with a cosmic perspective, illustrating that the conflict was not merely about earthly dominion, but also involved spiritual entities attempting to thwart God's salvific agenda for Israel. The plagues in Egypt are thus seen not merely as divine retribution, but as elements of a grander cosmic conflict, with Master endeavoring to obstruct Israel's liberation. In Jubilees, the heavenly tablets are crucial, clarifying the divine laws and the meticulously predestined timing of the Exodus. This account portrays the Exodus not simply as a response to Israel's plight, but as a divinely orchestrated event, meticulously planned and inscribed in the eternal records of the heavenly tablets, ensuring its place within God's sovereign timeline. The Book of Jubilees emphasizes that the timing of the Exodus was intricately linked to the observance of sacred laws, positioning Israel's deliverance as a key event that aligned them with a divine order. According to Jubilees, every aspect of Israel's stay in Egypt, their hardships, and the exact moment of their liberation was preordained, aligning seamlessly with the cosmic timeline. Jubilees uniquely details that the heavenly tablets recorded the Exodus to occur on the 14th day of the first month, marking this day as sacred from the dawn of creation. Jubilees 49:1. While the Book of Exodus describes the sequence of events culminating in the plagues, Jubilees underscores the significance of the Exodus's timing as part of God's grand design, linking it to universal spiritual laws. This interpretation frames the Exodus not merely as a pivotal historical event, but as a critical component of the spiritual structure of the universe. In Jubilees, the 10 plagues are not only manifestations of God's might aimed at compelling Pharaoh's compliance, but also hold cosmic importance. Each plague targets the so-called deities of Egypt, illustrating the supremacy of the God of Israel over both terrestrial and celestial realms. These plagues symbolize a direct confrontation, not just with Pharaoh, but with the spiritual entities presiding over Egypt, challenging the darkness that endeavored to keep Israel in bondage. Jubilees narrates that each divine intervention was designed to debunk the false gods of Egypt, asserting the sole authority of the God of Israel as sovereign over all creation. This perspective casts the plagues as pivotal battles within a broader cosmic struggle between forces of good and evil, wherein God's overwhelming power systematically dismantles the spiritual and physical defenses of Egypt. Moreover, Jubilees suggests that Mima and his demonic allies attempted to hinder Pharaoh's decision to release the Israelites. However, in every instance, God's might proved superior, overpowering these malevolent forces, further highlighting the overarching theme of divine triumph in the narrative. In the Book of Exodus, the narrative prominently features Moses receiving the law from God atop Mount Sinai. However, the Book of Jubilees expands on this by asserting that these laws were not newly conceived at that moment, but were already etched on the heavenly tablets well before Moses' era. According to Jubilees, these heavenly tablets act as a universal ledger, containing all divine decrees that were established at the outset of creation, serving as a guide for both celestial beings and humanity. Jubilees thus portrays Moses not as the originator, but as the earthly recipient of eternal laws, highlighting that the Mosaic law forms an integral part of a broader divine schema that orchestrates the cosmos. This context elevates the Mosaic laws beyond mere guidelines for the Israelites, framing them as components of a universal order intended to regulate the entire creation. Consequently, the laws delivered to Moses were destined for disclosure, their unveiling meticulously synchronized with the divine timeline. And the law and the testimony were ordained and inscribed on the heavenly tablets, crafted even before the world was formed, to direct every epoch of the children of Israel. Jubilees 6:17. While the Exodus account emphasizes the dramatic and immediate revelation of the law at Sinai, Jubilees offers a perspective where these laws existed in the heavens, preordained and awaiting the appointed time for their disclosure to Moses and the Israelite community. One intriguing aspect of the Book of Jubilees is its assertion that adherence to the Mosaic law predated Moses himself. Unlike the standard biblical narrative, which depicts Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as virtuous figures without specifying their compliance with the full law, Jubilees suggests that these patriarchs were already practicing Sabbath observance, offering sacrifices, and adhering to many rules that Moses would later formalize. This perspective positions the Mosaic law not as a novel innovation, but rather as a reaffirmation of ancient statutes handed down from time's inception. The patriarchs were informed of these decrees through supernatural means and angelic intervention. For instance, it portrays Abraham as observing the Sabbath and dietary restrictions well before these practices were formally mandated to the nation of Israel, noting that Abraham kept the Sabbath, performed circumcision on his sons, and obeyed the divine directives inscribed on celestial tablets. According to Jubilees, and through the angels of God, the law was disclosed to him. Jubilees 16:28. Thus, Jubilees portrays the law as an eternal framework bestowed upon all the righteous, starting with Adam. Moses was merely selected to present this codified doctrine to the Israelites in its entirety. One of the distinctive elements Jubilees introduces to the narrative of the Mosaic law is its focus on a cosmic calendar. In this text, the precise observation of time, especially the Sabbath, festivals, and Jubilee years, is portrayed as fundamental to the cosmic order. These temporal laws are linked directly to the heavenly tablets, suggesting that adherence to them aligns humanity with the universe's divine rhythm. Jubilees particularly advocates for a solar calendar, which consists of 364 days, arguing that this system ensures the accurate timing of religious observances, allowing festivals and Sabbaths to occur on their intended days. The text underscores the importance of this calendar by warning that any deviation might disrupt spiritual harmony. It stresses the critical nature of these laws by depicting a divine command. "And the Lord spoke to Moses and said, Write down for Israel the law of the Sabbath and the festivals, for these times are ordained on the heavenly tablets, and you must observe them exactly, lest you fall into error." Jubilees 5:2. This emphasis places the laws of timekeeping at the heart of the divine order in Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees places a strong emphasis on a cosmic calendar, a theme that is less pronounced in the traditional Bible. There, while Sabbaths and festivals are noted, the cosmic significance behind them is not as stressed. According to Jubilees, adhering to this celestial schedule is crucial for maintaining divine favor, as it synchronizes human existence with the divine blueprint. Unlike the Mosaic law in the Bible, which is directed specifically at the Israelites, Jubilees declares these statutes to be timeless and obligatory for all people and even celestial beings across all generations. It asserts that the directives on the heavenly tablets are perpetual, shaping not only human conduct but also heavenly activities. In this text, the commandments given to Moses are portrayed as universal, meant for adherence by all beings, including angels who observe the Sabbath and celebrate divine festivals in heaven. This broader application elevates the Mosaic law to a fundamental component of the universal structure, linking the spiritual with the physical world. The law received by Moses on Mount Sinai is described as everlasting, upheld in both heaven and earth. Angels practice the Sabbath, and the righteous are expected to follow the commandments indefinitely. Jubilees 50:13. This notion of an unending law contrasts with the traditional Bible's focus on a specific covenant between God and Israel. Jubilees uniquely integrates the law into the universe's very fabric, binding angels and humans alike to a divine cosmic order. In the Book of Jubilees, Israel's destiny is meticulously scripted within a divine framework that has been inscribed on the celestial tablets from the dawn of creation. This divine chronology charts the ascension and decline of empires, Israel's periods of exile and resurgence, and the ultimate reckoning that will befall the globe. The trajectory of human events, from the inception of the world to the final day of judgment, adheres strictly to this heavenly timetable. Jubilees is distinctive in its assertion that all historical events are predestined, unfolding strictly under God's sovereign guidance. The text offers a prophetic summary of Israel's path, detailing that their periods of displacement, tribulation, and eventual revival have all been pre-recorded in the heavenly annals, destined to transpire according to this sacred timetable. The narrative indicates that every phase of Israel's history, from their defiance to their salvation, and the preset times for their redemption, have been established from time immemorial. Jubilees 23:32. Contrasting with the narratives of Genesis and Exodus, which concentrate on specific incidents in Israel's past, Jubilees presents a comprehensive perspective, positioning Israel's fate within a grand, predetermined celestial plan. The text underscores the significant role of angels in shaping Israel's history, a role that becomes crucial as the end times near. In Jubilees, heavenly messengers are tasked with enforcing God's judgments upon the nations, ensuring the fulfillment of His will in both celestial and terrestrial realms. As the final days draw near, Jubilees portrays these celestial beings descending to earth to sift the virtuous from the sinful, assembling those who have steadfastly adhered to God's statutes. The Book of Jubilees elaborates on the idea that Metima, the leader of the malevolent spirits, will be restrained and cast into the depths, symbolizing the definitive triumph over evil. In this text it is stated, "The Lord will dispatch His angels to assemble His elect, and they will restrain the chief of the evil spirits, hurling him into the abyss until the appointed time of judgment, where he will be annihilated permanently. Jubilees 23:29. This depiction underscores the role of angels as instruments of divine justice, adding depth to the prophecy of the end times. Unlike the general references to angels in traditional biblical texts, such as in Revelation, Jubilees provides an elaborate depiction of their involvement in the spiritual battles of the last days. Central to Jubilees is the prophetic narrative of Israel's redemption. The text stresses that despite their disobedience and dispersion, God has predetermined a moment for their restoration to their homeland and the rejuvenation of their covenant with Him. This restoration transcends a mere political revival. It represents a spiritual resurgence that is in alignment with the divine plan inscribed on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees foretells that Israel's redemption will follow a period of intense tribulation, a time of purification for the nation, during which the law will be reinstated and the people will return to a life of sanctity. This purification is seen as a preparatory phase for the arrival of the Messiah and the establishment of God's dominion on earth. In the Book of Jubilees, there comes a time when the children of Israel will wholeheartedly return to the Lord, prompting Him to regather them from the nations and re-establish them in their homeland, as prescribed on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 23:26. While traditional biblical texts like Isaiah and Jeremiah also discuss Israel's restoration, Jubilees specifies that this event is part of a predetermined divine timeline, with each detail chronicled in the celestial records. In its portrayal of the end times, Jubilees envisions the emergence of a Messianic kingdom wherein God's anointed, often interpreted as the Messiah, will instate righteousness across the earth. This kingdom signifies the cessation of the current era and ushers in an everlasting divine governance, characterized by the adherence to the law and the righteous inheriting the earth. The culmination of events in Jubilees involves the segregation of the righteous from the wicked, with the latter being consigned to the lake of fire for eternal destruction. The defeat of Master and his malignant spirits paves the way for the Messiah to govern with equity and tranquility. This eschatological scenario aligns with the apocalyptic imagery of the Book of Revelation. Yet Jubilees places a stronger emphasis on the restoration of the law and cosmic order. The narrative concludes with the Lord's establishment of His earthly kingdom, where the righteous will co-rule, the law will be internalized by the faithful, and the wicked will meet their end in the lake of fire. Jubilees 50:13. The Messianic kingdom, as depicted in the Book of Jubilees, presents a vision of creation restored, where the law is fully honored and the faithful are rewarded. The final judgment heralds the absolute vanquishment of evil, initiating a period of unending peace. If this exploration of the Book of Jubilees and its distinctive cosmic interpretation of biblical events resonated with you, please share this video with others who might appreciate these profound insights. Your sharing supports our efforts to delve into ancient scriptures and expose the intricate details of God's perpetual design. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and join the discussion in the comments below. Together, let's continue to uncover these captivating biblical revelations.